Добре, продовжуємо засідання. Прошу запросити
We shall continue this session. Syvokin Serhiy Serhiyovych, please invite the candidate to the room.
Доброго дня.
Good afternoon.
Розглядається питання щодо відповідності
By
кандидата
considering the issue of compliance of the candidate to the Hague Court judge position, Syvokin Serhiy Serhiyovych, under the law on the Hague Court. The PCIe members are present. Names follow. Gabriela and Mary Kay Butler are joining us by video. HQCJ members are present. Names follow.
Руслан Мельник, Олексій Омельян, Андрій Пасічник, Роман Сабадаш, Руслан Сидорович, Сергій Чумак, Галина Шевчук. Ви маєте право заявляти відвід, заявляти
You have the right to make motions, make recusals, with the consent of the chair, make objections, and make your opinions known. Do you have any motions or recusals? None. Thank you. The rapporteur is Bogonis Mikhailo Bogdanovich. Hi. Serhiy Serhiyovych, good afternoon. I will make a brief report regarding your profile, and after that you will be able to make any contributions if necessary. So this candidate has turned to the Commission in order to fill the vacant judge position at the Hague Court. He stated in his application that he is compliant with Clause 1, Part 2, Article 7 of the Law of Ukraine on the Hague Court. He has a professional experience as a judge at least 5 years. In 2008, he graduated from Odessa National Law Academy and earned his degree in law and qualification as a lawyer. Regarding his professional activities, from April 2008 to May 2013, he worked as assistant judge at the Pridniprovsk District Court in Cherkasy. From May 2013 to June 2014, he was the main specialist of the legal department of the main directorate at the State Treasury Service of Ukraine in Cherkasy Oblast. From June 2014 to January 2016, he was the head of legal department of the main directorate of the State Treasury Service of Ukraine, Cherkasy Oblast. From January 2016 to April 2018, he was the main legal counselor of the Cherkasy branch of Privat Bank. And since July 2020 until now, he has worked as the judge at the Shpolyansky District Court, Cherkasy Oblast, by the presidential decree. In July 2020, he was appointed to the judge's position at the aforementioned court in Cherkasy Oblast. He scored 335.82 points in the qualification test. Thank you. Over to you. So the basic information has been provided. Do you want to make any contributions? It's all right. Thank you. Robert, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your rapporteur is John O'Sullivan, sitting next to me. So please, the floor is yours, John.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm going to call you by your first name, if that's okay. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to the other members of the PCIe. To my right is Robert. Robert is an attorney in the Netherlands, and he's our chair. Next to him is Norman. Norman's an attorney from Estonia. And next to Norman is Jessica, who's an attorney from Canada. If you look up at the screen there, on your left side is Mary, who's a prosecutor with the Department of Justice in the United States. And next to her is Judge Gabrielle, who's a Supreme Court judge in Lithuania. So I want to ask you some questions today mostly about your finances. But before we get started with that, I note that you've been a judge for about 16 years, a little over 15 years actually, in a district court. Tell me what experience you have that would make you qualify for a hack court judge.
Доброго дня, дякую за запитання.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. So I have been a judge. Maybe I have been a judge for almost 6 years, not 16 years. I may have heard it
That's my
wrong.
mistake.
Я являюсь суддею місцевого загального суду, відповідно, в нас
So I'm a judge, the General Jurisdiction Court. I have no specialization, and I consider all cases, criminal, civil, administrative cases. And also by a panel of judges, I was elected as an investigating judge. And throughout those 6 years, I have considered all the types of cases that I mentioned. And as I consider them, being a judge of the first instance court judge, you need to be really multifaceted, and that is hard. And therefore, I believe that this experience will enable me to tackle the complexities of the hack court judge job in case this competition plays out in my favor. And throughout my career, I grew to understand that being a judge is also a multifaceted job, and especially being liable for the decisions that you make as a judge is the most complex part of this job, but I have gained extensive experience in this, so I think this is what prepared me for the head court judge position.
Have you had any experience throughout your career with corruption cases?
Дякую за запитання.
Thank you for this question. So in our court, we mostly deal with administrative offenses, corruption-related administrative offenses, failures to fill out declarations properly. But corruption cases per se, we have a case now under Article 191, and that relates to embezzlement and abuse of power. And this case is ongoing.
Let's talk about your income in 2019. In 2019, you were married with 2 children, and this was before you became a judge. Your income was approximately 30,000 hryvnia. Is that correct?
Дякую за запитання.
Thank you for this question. Yes, this is correct. 2019 was probably one of the most difficult financial years for my family. I would like to explain that when I ran for competitions for the judge positions, I made it to a reserve of judges in one of the competitions. Then I was later excluded due to the expiration of the reserve term. Then I ran in another competition. I was again enrolled in the reserve. And I needed to understand whether this competition plays out in my favor and become a judge, or I need to make another choice as to a career pathway. So by the time the competition was over, I resigned from the bank where I worked as a legal counsel, but then the situation stayed in the year for some time, and we really made it all to survive that year. And because I come from a village and my wife too, we were having our food coming from our activities in the village, and the income that I could calculate as source of income for my family, it's really hard to calculate that. I can only make assumptions that would be unsubstantiated. So we try to do our best and to make the best use of the resources that we had. We had food, we didn't buy anything, and we managed to make it through.
Well, why'd you quit your job before getting another job or before receiving an appointment as a judge?
Ну, відверто хочу пояснити. При зайнятті посади
I'll try to explain. When appointed to the judge position, in the first place, you need to have no other job. As I worked as a legal counselor at a bank, why I decided to quit it? I did not plan on working there in the future. At that time, there were two legal counselors at that bank that handled cases of debt recovery with the appellate institutions.
A little more focused in your answers because we have a time limitation. So why did you quit your job prior to getting a judicial appointment when you had a family of 4 to support?
Відверто кажучи, я звільнився для того, щоб
So I quitted my job in order to not interfere with my colleagues' work. So we had a rating at the bank. There was 2 of us, and then another legal counselor joined us. So there were 3 of us in the end. And depending on the number of cases considered by a legal counselor, the remuneration was split between those 3 legal counselors. And I didn't want to just to get my salary. I just wanted my colleagues to earn bigger salary. And I knew that I could be appointed to the judge's position. And so 3 of us would have smaller salaries.
And so during 2019, your family earned, as I said, about 30,000 hryvnias. At that time, the minimum subsistence expense for a family such as yours, estimated by the Ukrainian government, was 92,000 hryvnias. Did you have any savings at the end of 2018 that you were able to use during 2019?
Я б хотів би пояснити, що це були ці кошти,
які
залишалися за
the costs that was left from the previous periods were the ones we used to leave in 2019, then symbolic gifts from parents on birthdays and holidays, then in-kind assistance from my parents. From 30 to 50% of expenses people have goes to cover the cost of food. So this is what helped us make it through that period. We had no additional sources of income.
To answer my question, listen carefully. What was the total amount of your savings at the end of 2018?
Як я вже зазначав у своїх і письмових
As
поясненнях, я не
I stated in my written explanations, I didn't calculate it, and I'm being frank now. I cannot give you the exact number because it would be an assumption. I could state any random number, but it would be unreliable. I didn't have any documents that prove it.
And what was the total amount of monetary gifts that you and your family received from your parents in 2019?
Хотів би зазначити, що
Like to state that as I filled out the declaration, there is a threshold sum that exceeds a certain limit, and in this case, the sum should be declared. In my case, that sum did not exceed that threshold, and in case it does exceed, then I am supposed to declare it. Declare the sum that exceeds the...
I'm asking you, what was the total amount of money that they gave you and your family as gifts in that year, approximately, in 2019? Not whether or not you were required to put it on your form, just how much did they give you? You said they gave you monetary gifts, you and your family. How much was it for 2019?
Відверто кажучи, такого...
To be honest, I did not calculate this. So on my birthday, it may be 1,000, 2,000 hryvnias. For my child's birthday, for Easter, for the New Year's, maybe 500, 200, 100 hryvnias. So I would like to keep it just and reliable, and I wouldn't like to give you just random minimum sums that I declared and say that that sum was gifted. That would be unfair on my part.
Approximately how much did you spend on your daughter, Alina, who was your daughter by a prior wife or prior mother? How much were you spending approximately per month on her in 2019?
Відповідно, як я зазначав в поясненнях,
As I stated in my written explanations, mostly it was around, it was mostly in-kind assistance, and in terms of monetary assistance, about 1,000 hryvnia per month, because we were really hard up.
So what 1,000 per month would be 12,000 for the year. If you subtract that from your $30,000 income, that only leaves $18,000 for the year to support your family, plus any gifts you got from your folks. All right, let's move on to a land plot that you received in November of 2016, approximately 18,795 square meters in Medvedivka. You're familiar with that, aren't you?
Так, це моя земельна ділянка, відповідно,
Yes,
як...
this is my land plot, and under the law, each citizen of Ukraine has a right to privatize land plots no more than 2 hectares, and my land plot is 1.8 hectares, and for the evaluation entered to the local self-governance, the process was long, and in 2014 that deal was adopted. Yes, of course, I know of these land plots.
Yes, and your brother acquired a similar land plot, is that correct?
Так, дана процедура була одночасна, і відповідно
Yes,
також
that procedure went both ways. To enable him to get a land plot too, my brother was born in a different village, but he went to school there, and our parents lived there too.
And your mother also acquired a land plot in the same way, correct?
Ні, я хотів би пояснити щодо
No, I'd like to
земельних
explain
ділянок батьків.
regarding my parents' land plots. My parents got their land plots when the former kolkhoz were distributed. There was a procedure of privatization of up to 2 hectares. After the Soviet Union was dismantled, kolkhoz were also dismantled. Depending on the number of members of kolkhoz, there was a state act on the land plot comprising 3 parts for different agricultural needs. And this is how my mother and father claimed their right to own land plots, and they couldn't privatize the land plots back then. So the question was about my father's land plot, more than 3 hectares.
The question was about your mother's land plot, not your father's.
Безпосередньо вона отримала саме при розпаюванні.
So my mother got her land plot after the kolkhoz was distributed into land plots.
Okay, and during this time when you, your brother, received your land plots, your father was a deputy of the village council. Is that correct?
Yes, this is correct. And my father continues to be a deputy of this council. He has been so in this position since late 80s.
Did he participate in the vote on this issue regarding these land plots that were given to your family?
Я хочу з певністю зазначити, що він
So I'd like to indicate that he didn't vote for any issue related to this procedure, no conflict of interest, because of the conflict of interest, and on multiple times checks were done in that community, and based on the check, my father has never been held liable. Some deputies have, and currently one of the district courts is considering a criminal case regarding embezzlement on the part of the local council members. And because my father got information from local self-governance regarding spendings from the local budget, some individual did not get salaries working there. So there are verdicts against 2 individuals, and they are found guilty. Criminal cases are ongoing. And these checks included the verification of circumstances. Some deputies were held liable, and there was no such thing regarding my father. He is a witness in this criminal proceedings, and if conflict of interest had occurred, then the local officials would have reported that in order to hold him liable.
In March of 2003, your father received 3 land plots free of charge, totaling a little over 3 hectares, correct?
Перепрошую, в якому році?
I'm sorry, which year was it?
2003. He received a land plot of 1.99 hectares, a land plot of 0.719 hectares, and a land plot of 0.434 hectares, which totals 3.14 hectares. And he obtained those free of charge, designated for personal farming. You in agreement with that? Yes? And at that time, Article 121 of the Land Code of Ukraine indicated that a person could not receive more than 2 hectares free of charge for personal farming. Can you explain why he was able to receive more than 2?
Так, я можу пояснити. Я от забігаючи
Yes, I
наперед,
can
хочу
explain
сказати,
it.
що це земельна ділянка на
So
осіб.
those
Я
land
зазначав
plots
у
were
своїх,
registered in the name of 2
поясненнях
people.
про
And in
те,
my
що
written
члени
statement,
колгоспу,
I indicated
ті,
that the
які,
kolkhoz
отримували
members,
сертифікати,
those
працівники
who
колгоспу, які працювали,
received
отримали
certificates,
сертифікати. І працівниками був батько і його мати,
and
моя
my
бабуся.
father
Вони були
and his
працівниками
mother, my
колгоспу.
grandma,
Відповідно, їм
were
видавався
kolkhoz
на той час,
members.
називався сертифікат
They
права на земельну ділянку
owned
пай.
a certificate
Відповідно,
that is actually a right to ownership of
відповідно, цей сертифікат
land plot.
реалізувати
So my father
відповідно, і на підставі цього уже не
could
видавалось 2 окремих
claim his
державних
right
акта, а видався
based on
один
the
державний
certificate,
акт, оскільки
just
спадкоємець мав право і на цю частку. І тому вийшло
and
таке
he was entitled to inherit his grandma's
його
land
мати.
plot.
І вийшла якраз оця сума, що
And this is how we arrived at the sum that is at this
він отримав цю земельну
square
ділянку
meters
за
that
дві
is
особи, за себе
more than
і
3
за свою
hectares.
матір, як члена колгоспу.
He got land plots in his name and in his grandmother's name. And these were 2 different procedures. Under the law on privatization, you're entitled to no more than 2 land plots, but the kolkhoz members,
різними розмірами. До прикладу, я працюю в
and in fact, the land plots could be different in size. In Shpolyansky district, the kolkhoz members there received 4 and more hectares. In other locations where kolkhoz was made up of a small number of members, in Donetsk region, for instance, they could get even 7 hectares because the general size of kolkhoz was divided between the members. This is my explanation.
So let's move on to another piece of property. In July of 2025, your wife received a gift from her mother of an apartment that was approximately 79 square meters. Is that correct?
Так, це вірно.
Yes, this is correct.
And your mother-in-law or her mother purchased or received ownership of that property in December of 2020, correct?
Щас, якщо не помиляюсь, вона
If I'm not mistaken,
у грудні 2020 року
in
це
December
укладений
2020,
договір дольової участі.
they
Тобто це будинок
concluded
тільки будувався,
a
ще не
contract
був збудований, вона придбала майнові права
that
безпосередньо
building
на
was
квартиру.
not finished yet, and she acquired
Завершення
her ownership rights.
будівництво,
The construction was finished,
здається, якщо не помиляюсь,
seems to me,
аж точного місяця дати не зазначив.
I don't remember the month. It was finished in 2023, in mid 2023 or in late 2023. So as soon as the construction is finished, the individual can register their ownership right rather than property right.
2020, she received ownership rights on the basis of a share participation agreement, correct?
Ну, і знову ж таки, як не помиляюсь, в 23-му році, не
In
22-му,
2023, it happened in 2023, September 2023, she received that.
Where did she get the 1 million hryvnias to purchase that?
Я хотів би пояснити, спочатку
Like to
сума
explain
була
that. So first,
975,
the sum was 975,000 hryvnia, and this money was collected with my father-in-law, by her with her husband for all their life. He was an entrepreneur. They also maintained their farm, and they didn't buy any real estate objects because they had two children, an elder son and a younger daughter. So they wanted their daughter to have a dowry, sort of. This is why they saved money. They had pigs, and so they had a farm. They also did apiculture, and I provided some documents to prove that. And I also provided the commission with the recent information of 2020. Back in 2017, he actually maintained relationship with LLC Med Ukraine, that is Honey Ukraine, and he maintained, together with his wife, maintained these activities, and that enabled them to save money to buy that apartment. And during the previous interviews, there was a statement that in Ukraine, officials or their relatives get accommodation from their parents. In fact, this is true, because when you are fresh from college, from university, even if I earned money for my own accommodation, it would last long. So parents save money for their children. This is true.
But this apartment was given to your wife long after she was married, long after she graduated from school, correct? It was just given to her in the last year.
Я б хотів би сказати, що
I would like to say about that gift. After we got married, we lived in the apartment of my mother, and our stuff is still there, and I informed about the repairs in that apartment. So my mother-in-law and my father-in-law were not counting on my capacities and me as a person. They had their daughter, and they are worried about their daughter. And it's my second marriage, to be honest. So maybe to some extent, my parents-in-law were not counting on me, were not counting that I would be able to provide for their daughter. We lived with my wife in the one-room apartment in 2017. Our son was born, so we lived there. In the beginning of 2025, we got good news. The wife got pregnant, and we took the decision. Actually, the parents took the decision to make such a present so that we are able to physically fit into our housing, because in one-room apartment it was no longer possible to live with having such a family.
And you live in this apartment now with your wife and children, right?
Так, ми туди перебралися.
Yes, we moved there. The repairs are not finished yet, but it's enough to live there. No issues. It's clean. Many things still need finalizing, but everything covers our minimum needs.
Did you or your wife contribute at all to the purchase price of the apartment?
Відверто кажучи, внески в нас
To be honest,
відверто сказати, в нас не було ресурсів для
we had no resources to make any contributions to this apartment. We were only doing the repairs after the wife got pregnant. We had no other option because we were only trying to make the apartment livable.
And how much money have you spent on repairs on this apartment? Approximately.
Відповідно, я зазначав у підрахунках.
I mentioned in the calculations, I provided the printout
Це дозволяє сам
which
функціонал
allows to which is allowed at the bank. You can choose the category of expenditures.
I'm asking you, this is only in the last year. How much money did you and your family spend on repairs to the apartment?
Це було впродовж 2020.
It was during the 2025. So, excuse me, according to the documents, it was approximately 144,000, as the bank shows. There were other funds, the loan in the amount of 140,000 hryvnias, and the money in the amount of 100,000 from my parents. We were not calculating every penny, but if we estimate the whole sum, including the loan, the present from the parents, and what we also spent, it's around 400,000 hryvnias, more or less. But we can add to that what we bought at the market for cash. Maybe in general it will be approximately 400,000.
Okay. One last topic I want to talk to you about is a property that your wife rents of 13 square meters in Cherkasy from 2021 until January of 2025. I'm sorry, until June of 2025. Are you familiar with that property?
Так, безпосередньо, да, мені знайоме
Yes,
це приміщення.
I do know that property.
And you were paying $2,500 a month, 2,500, I'm sorry, not dollars, hryvnias a month until January of 25. And then you started paying $3,640 a month for that property until you got rid of the property in June of 2025. Is that correct?
Так, все вірно.
Yes, that's right.
And did your wife provide eyebrow care services from that office or that office space?
Хотів би зазначити, мені такі обставини відомі, вона не займалася.
Would like to say that she never exercised such activities and never got profits from such an activity. If we did, she would get registered as a private entrepreneur which provides such services. So in my explanations, I wrote that this rented premises allowed my wife to have her private space. As I was saying, we were living in one-room apartment, and my wife's space would only be kitchen, and it's wrong. I actually sent the photos of the crafts she was making at the address, and so it was the main purpose, and also any entrepreneurial activity in this case would be impossible and not reasonable, because there was a little child, and if you do not manage to organize your child caring activity and other entrepreneurial activity, why would you add an entrepreneurial activity? So the expenses for the rental were not huge, and it allowed us to maintain positive atmosphere inside a family. Because once again, the wife cannot be closed in the apartment with the child, forcing her to spend all her time in the kitchen doing nothing for herself. And out of the crafts she was making, well, they could be offered as a present, and something made by her own hands is very valued as a present, and that's how we decreased our expenses for presents for our close people. So it was a rented premises with such purpose. Why we kept renting it? Maybe if we had time and the wife would decide on her preferred activities, it would be a premises for allocation for such activities. But good news came about the birth of the son, and we no longer needed that premises.
Your wife's maiden name is Chubb, correct?
Так, все вірно.
Yeah, that's correct.
And she refers to herself as Irina Chubb?
По-різному. Ну, тобто, старі
well, differently. Her old acquaintances know her as Irina Chub, but the new people who met her recently use her new surname, because different people have different habits and we cannot force them to use a different surname.
And on TikTok, she describes herself as having 10 years of experience in providing eyebrow shaping services.
Ну, відверто, я такої інформації не втрачав, можливо.
To be honest, I never saw such information.
Як ви зазначаєте, особа
There is a person called Irina Chub from Dnipro city, as far as I know from the internet. Maybe these are the circumstances, and I would like to add, maybe this information is absent on the internet, but when I was appointed to the position of a judge, I was really surprised, because I found information that in Dnipropetrovsk there was also Syvokin Serhiy Serhiyovych with the same first name and last name, also practicing lawyer, and I was really worried that maybe someone opened the enterprise at my name, but I found that person, and he said that he just has the same first name and last name, and I had no more doubts. So maybe it's the same situation with this Irina Chub person. Maybe there is such a specialist in another city, the city of Dnipro.
Well, I'm going to show you a picture from TikTok from what I believe is your wife's site. Is that a picture of your wife? And is that a picture of the office space that she rented?
Можна я ближче підійду?
Can I come closer and look at it?
If you like, you can stay there.
Я не готов сказати, дещо
I'm
не
not
так виглядало.
ready to answer. There was a TV and another cupboard, so I'm not ready to state that it's the premises. Maybe not.
Is that a picture of your wife? Can you identify her?
Я не можу там ідентифікувати дружину.
No, I cannot identify her.
And what about that mirror? Have you seen that mirror in the area that she rents? The makeup mirror, makeup looking mirror?
Ну, схожі такі зеркала були.
Well, there was a similar mirror.
Okay. And in fact, the Irina Chubb, who is identified in this TikTok, indicates in her profile that she's from Cherkasy. It's kind of hard to believe that you can't recognize your own wife. All right, I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
У мене більше немає запитань. Дякую.
On the screen, questions? Yes? You see Gabrielle?
The same now.
The same, no? Okay. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Михайло Богданович.
Thank you. Михайло Богданович.
Дякую.
Так, пане Сергію, залишилось декілька запитань.
We have a few remaining questions.
У реєстрі судових рішень виявлено, що ви
Um,
неодноразово
In the register of court decisions, we could see that you were a party in cases related to the utility services payment. Do you know about these facts? Yes. I can explain briefly, please. Yes, I would like to explain that in the Unified Register of Court Decisions, there is information about the refusal to issue the court order and also information about the claim submitted by the company providing utility services, and I submitted a counterclaim. That party of the claimant dropped the file, and I remained, and my counterclaim also was not considered. I will try to ask a few clarifying questions to save time. Did you violate the contract obligations? No, there were no violations of the contract on my side because it was not an agreed sum. When the sums are accrued for heating for a one-room apartment in the end of 2020, 7.5 thousand hryvnias were accrued for 1 month, and excuse me, that's enough for us that there were no violations on your part. There was just a mistake during the accrual. Okay, thank you. Yes, and that party did the recalculation and we came to an agreement. About disciplinary liability, was there such a liability applied to you during your work? Yes, as I was serving within the state treasury, but it was challenged and all the information was provided in the questionnaire. When you resigned from these authorities, was it related to your disciplinary liability? To be honest, no, it was not related. One person was resigning from a private bank, and they had asked those person willing to resign to find herself a replacement. And since the salary was better there, I decided to change my working place. Okay, it's clear. So it's a coincidence. and that there was the disciplinary liability and then real resignation. Yes, it's a coincidence because the employee of the bank just contacted me saying that he was looking for a replacement for himself and the conditions were better there. Thank you. Well, most questions were raised upon the initiative of the Public Council of International Experts. A few more questions related to your understanding of the such a thing as a recusal of a judge. Could you please explain what is the purpose of this procedural tool and in what cases can it be applied? What are the procedural norms regulating the procedure of recusal? I would like to say that according to the Code of Civil Procedure and Code of Criminal Procedure, the norms are established to recuse a judge, and it can be done. There is a list of grounds for recusal when the judge cannot participate in case consideration. I cannot provide a full list at this point with the exact phrasing. One of such grounds is to eliminate any doubts as to impartiality of a judge. And this tool is introduced so that the court consideration, so that the trial is independent and impartial. The investigating judge cannot consider criminal proceedings where they participated as an investigator because they would be aware of the materials of criminal proceedings, and so there is a contradiction also. Thank you. It's clear. What's your understanding of the notion conflict of interest? A conflict of interest. So it's there is a real and a potential conflict of interest. A real one is a contradiction between the private interest and working obligations, which affect the ability of impartial decision making. And a potential conflict of interest is presence of a private interest which can cause, which may affect certain decisions or acts within someone's powers. Thank you. Going back to the topic of recusals. In your opinion, if we assess your approaches retrospectively, in the first case, when you self-recused, was when the defense party was someone you knew, and so you so one of the parties is the wife of the person you knew. Another case, defense party in the case is serving within the security service of Cherkasy Oblast, and this person is ensuring safety of judges. The recusal was satisfied. There was a case related to administrative offense. The person who was brought to liability was a worker, was 2 years before you considered that case, was a leading specialist in the enterprise you were linked to, and the self-recusal was made.
Інші випадки стосуються заняття
Other cases are related
суду окремих
to certain people brought to liability who worked within the court, and another self-recusal. So, in your opinion, what's the difference between the right to self-recuse and the abuse of such a tool as self-recusal? Thank you for the question. I would like to explain that I do remember all of those cases, and those self-recusals were made to eliminate all doubts of outside observers as to impartiality of the judge. And when in these cases, for an outside observer, a conscious observer, it may look as a risk for impartial trial. So, in our court, we have same practice, me and my colleagues. And what happened later with the case I mentioned, where one of the parties were ex-employees of your courts. Were these cases considered? Yes. In our court, the case was not considered. Both me and my colleagues self-recused, and the case was referred to the closest court to avoid impartiality. And what can be the doubts when the person involved in the case is an ex-employee of the court who worked there 2 years prior to the case? As far as I remember, that ex-worker was either drafted to military service, or maybe it was a court employee. I don't remember the surname.
Я вибачаюсь, за період роботи, тобто, я б не сказав,
I wouldn't say that I knew some ex-workers who would resign. As far as I remember, that person was drafted to military service, so he was entitled to resume his duties. Okay, no other questions. Roman, please. I have a question about your use of access to the register. In 2022, in January, November, and December, you were searching. I will not disclose the last name, but the first and last name is the same as one of public figures who well, you were searching in Kyiv region. Do you recall that? To be honest, maybe it is related to the search of cases and case law.
Оце згадаю, тому що була ситуація з приводу
yeah, I do remember the situation when I was interested in the end result of a trial, because it was interesting from the point of view of case law. There were some articles published on media, and there was an unexpected end. Okay, thank you. Do you use one computer to access the register or several computers? For example, the search I mentioned was made from different IP addresses. To be exact, 3 different IP addresses. Maybe before the electronic keys were provided, we could access the register using our login and password. Maybe I was using my own computer, and other IP's address. Well, if we use an electronic key, we can also use different computers.
Я зрозумів вас. Так, він
Yeah, I understand you.
Я просто за останній період
And just over the last
з повним доступом в реєстр судових рішень вже не заходив. Тобто,
period, I haven't had full access to the register of court decisions, but I do use my laptop to access e-court service, and I use it. Any other questions, please?
У мене одне коротеньке питання.
Yes, I have one short question.
Окрім конкурсу до
In addition to the
Вищого антикорупційного
selection
суду, ви подавали
to the High Anti-Corruption Court, you applied
апеляційного суду, вірно?
to become a judge of the Appellate Court of Appeal. On the 4th of March 2024, your candidacy was rejected. Do you remember that? Yes. Do you think it was right? I would like to say that there is currently a ruling of the Supreme Court which addressed it in a legal way, and I think that it will clarify everything for me and other candidates, and it eliminates all the other interpretations. So now there is this ruling of Supreme Court, and I think that in future it will eliminate all the questions of other candidates. Could you remind us what the Supreme Court said? Wrote. What was the opinion of the Supreme Court? It expressed the opinion that to participate in a competitive selection, there has to be a certain working experience as a judge. The working experience that is used for this specific activity. Other kinds of experience cannot be excluded. Why did you, as a professional lawyer, require these clarifications from the Supreme Court? I do not understand it. I would like to say that the relevant article as to no sound.
Testing, testing.
Ще будуть питання? Немає?
Any other
Добре.
questions?
Шановні члени ГРМЄ, можливо, у вас виникли запитання ще?
PCIe members, any questions on your part?
I don't think so. No,
Добре.
thank you.
Добре, дякую, пане Сергію.
All
Вам
right.
надається
Thank you, Serhiy.
звернутись до комісії
You've
до
got
ГРМЄ. Можливо,
1 minute to
надати
address
інформацію,
HQCJ
надати
and PCIe members to provide any additional facts, statements. Thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in this interview. I would like to make one remark regarding recusals. I have never abused recusals, and the case that I indicated in my questionnaire can be an example of that. I value my job and I consider the cases I have. Thank you for the immense bulk of work done by you. Thank you. Thank you for participation in the interview. The interview is over. Stay well. We have reached the end of our agenda today, and this special joint session